Hello everyone, my name is Arun and welcome to my channel. In this video we'll have a sneak peek tour on Ubuntu 17.04. Now this distribution got released just yesterday, and since today is April 14th, I thought it would be better to give a quick review and a tour of what's happened, what is present in this operating system, so that everybody who want to have a try at it can get a first glance glimpse. Now I'm running this in a virtual machine, so that the performance can vary slightly, but nevertheless, this will be a you'll get a good feel of how this operating system will work. Now, before I proceed further, I just like to make a full disclaimer. Ever since Mark Shuttleworth posted an article, official announcement in Canonical website on April 5th, stating that Canonical will not support, will not fund the development of Unity 7 desktop and Unity 8 desktop, and Ubuntu will go back to have GNOME as the default desktop environment. Okay, ever since that news came into picture, to be honest, if I had to make any complaints or any critique about the Unity desktop after that announcement, it's actually how do I put it? It's not actually ethically or morally right for me, because this desktop, if you look at it, after this release, Ubuntu 17.04, the other Ubuntu version that will come in the future, they will not have this desktop unless otherwise somebody else in the community, in the Linux community, adopts it and then start making developments into it. So this is literally, if you're making complaints on this desktop, is equivalent to literally beating a dead horse. So that point of being said, I'll not be too hard on the criticisms. I just point out some differences and improvements that they made, which are plenty in number. With that being said, let's have a look at it straight away. Now this is actually the release notes for Zesty Zapus, this Ubuntu 17.04, and they mentioned all the changes they made over here. I'll just mention this one by one over here so that you'll get an idea. First thing they made is that there is this swap file. That is actually the major first correction they made. So if I just open up my terminal and if I just type lsblk and look at it, there is no swap partition from this distribution onwards, and that is actually one significant change that it's implemented from Ubuntu 17.04. Now, for most people might know what a swap partition is. For those people who do not know, let me explain. See, whenever your RAM is filled with information during a processing, and if your RAM is RAM wants a little more extra space, so that to take care of the overflowing information during processes, some amount of this extra information gets stored in the stored in the hard disk in a particular partition called as swap. Okay, so whenever RAM gets overflooded with memory, or if it needs more information, more space to store data, it will use the swap partition. In normal cases, the swap will be more or less empty, almost empty. But if at all the RAM is getting full, or it's on the verge of getting full, the swap space comes into picture, and it helps the RAM access the RAM. Although swap space is a little slower, but it actually helps in a particular way. Usually what happened is that in the past, the swap partition is supposed to be one of the vital partitions along with the root partition for making an operating system, for having while starting with the partitions in an operating system, especially Linux and Unix. Now with Ubuntu 17.04, the Canonical company made a big leap, and now they removed the swap partition. Now this is actually pretty interesting. The reason why they did this is because these days, unlike in the distant past, the memory is becoming cheaper. You're able to get a large amount of memory, like your RAM, for a cheaper price than before. And if someone wants to upgrade the system to have higher memory, it's much easier these days. So as a consequence, people what Canonical thought is, hey, just remove the need for a swap partition. Instead, just put a swap file in case the memory needs something, and thereby saving the space. So a swap file will be created, and it's actually present in this folder, / folder over here. You see this swap file over here. This is actually this is the one that will be the swap file, and the size of this swap file will be either 2 gigabytes or 5% of the total memory, 5% of the total hard disk memory or hard drive memory, whichever one is smaller. So since I'm running this in a virtual machine and a virtual box, and I have allocated like 30 gigabytes of memory, so the maximum swap file size will be about 1.4 to 1.5 gigabytes. Okay, so that will be the one. Now that's a major improvement, and the next thing they made is that the Linux kernel, they pushed it to 4.10. In the earlier releases, canonical Ubuntu was having kernels 4.8 or 4.9 depending upon the system. So if you're using Ubuntu 16.04, if I remember right, it was using 4.8 kernels, whereas Ubuntu Ubuntu 16.10 or Yakety-Yak is, as it's called unofficially, code name is called by the code name, it uses 4.9, whereas this one, Zesty Zapus, the nickname for Ubuntu 17.04, uses 4.10. So if I just type uname -a, list them all out, it uses the latest kernel 4.10 series. And if you're having a new laptop or a new computer, and if you want some operating system that works very smoothly on the latest hardware, this kernel will be really good, because this will be very smooth, and this is actually made with reference to latest hardware. And even if your hardware is slightly older, doesn't matter, this kernel will work reasonably well. That's what I've been heard. Hopefully that goes well. And this kernel is pretty new, pretty recent, because it just got updated on April 6th. So this kernel is pretty new. Okay, and second, and the other improvement they made is the usage of driverless printing. So if I just type the printers option over here, now unlike the previous cases, in the earlier cases, what you can do is I can just click add, and then you can just enter the URI, or you can directly connect to a network printer. The thing is, what you have to do is you just have to connect the printer through a USB cable to your system or a laptop, or your printer has to be connected to the local area network so that you can access it as a separate machine. If any one of these two features are present, you can automatically detect the printer in your you can automatically detect your printer through the software, and you don't need any drivers at all. You don't need to install any drivers to configure with the printers, and this way you save a lot of time configuring different printers of different companies. You don't need that. This is actually much easier. And unfortunately, I don't have a printer with me, so that I cannot demonstrate how this works. But if you're like someone who uses printer often, you can just give this a try. This might be interesting. This is actually simpler. And if you want to know more in detail about how this printer setup is made, you can actually read this in the release notes about all this information. Earlier, it was using what you call as a CUPS interface, if I remember right. Now it becomes much easier. Okay, and you can work with that. Now the next improvement they made is that it's about Libreoffice. Now Libreoffice, if I were to open this up, okay, now if I look at the version, now they updated and put Libreoffice to the latest version. So if you look at it, the latest version is 5.3.1, and a subversion of it is 2. So this is the latest version available. And now this actually has a few features. One of the major features is that it has a toolbar layout, which I'll talk about in a second. And if you want to access this toolbar layout, okay, by default it will not be present, but if you want to access it, you just have to click the writer option or anything, then go to preferences, and then what you do is in this Libreoffice, go to this advanced feature, and then over here check enable this option, enable experimental features, maybe unstable. Click this, make sure this option is selected, and if you do that and click OK, it'll ask you to maybe restart Libreoffice. But if you do that, okay, what you have is that in this view you have this toolbar layout wherein there are like 3 or 4 kinds of layouts by default. First is called as the default layout, which is the one standard layout which you see over here. Second one is actually the single toolbar layout, wherein all of these things which are actually cluttered, they're actually simplified. And this ribbon will stay over here. This ribbon with the most common features like the properties, page, the styles and formatting, gallery, navigator, manage changes in design. All this will remain over there, not a problem. The only difference is that instead of having multiple toolbars over here, you just have only a single compact toolbar for someone who wants to use very often, who wants to have a very tidy view. And this is actually present not only in LibreOffice Writer, it's also present in LibreOffice Calc, Impress, and other products of LibreOffice. It's also work. And also the other layout you have is that you have this sidebar layout, wherein you just have the sidebar by default. Okay, you can actually collapse and launch the sidebar, not much difference. And you have multiple, it will again enable multiple toolbars. And the most interesting one I've seen, which I've been hearing of, is this notebook bar option. If you look at this is very, very similar to how the OneNote Microsoft Office OneNote will look like. So if you have ever worked with Microsoft OneNote before, this is how this more or less styling will look like. And this is pretty nice. This is pretty nice too, and this is very intuitive and separated very well. Okay, especially for if somebody wants to get a easy start and work with it, and because of this icon features and the separation, this is actually much easier to work with, especially for beginners. And then what you have is that you can also switch between the default and any of these layouts. There's actually a name for it. Actually, if I understand this, there's a name for it. It's actually called as the what do you call the MUFFIN layout, if I remember right. Anyway, you can just search about it. It's actually called as the MUFFIN layout, MUFFIN feature, where you can shift between them. And then what else? And then one more thing I noticed is that I think this might be in the previous versions too. You have the normal view over here, and you also have this web view over here, wherein this will be like writing a web page kind of a thing. Not big difference, but it's worth noticing. And other than that, you have the very old software, Ubuntu software, which is the usual one. Not much difference, except the only difference being is that now it's a bit updated and they have this flashy images. Other than that, the softwares and stuff, they're all the same. It is updated to a slightly later version, latest version, so nothing much difference in that. And what else do we have here? And all the applications except for 1 or 2, they have been updated to the GNOME, the 3.24 version 2. And let's see, the only software they do not improve are actually the software. This software version still uses the version is 3.22, whereas the other version that they haven't modified is actually the terminal. So if you look at the terminal and search for look at the about feature, the terminal version they're keeping is 3.20.2. The other one is actually the Nautilus file manager, just files. If I look at it's still 3.20.4, and the other one they still keep the main older version is Evolution. They're just trying to put some patches to make sure that this is similar to the functioning of the GNOME counterparts. Okay, and also like in this Nautilus, the files manager, I think this feature might have been there in the previous one, which I haven't noticed. If you just click Control and then scroll your mouse wheel, you can just increase the sizes and increase the size and size of the files and folders. And you have the option to, not much, you just have the option to open a new terminal by right clicking it. And this terminal, I don't know whether you might notice, it's slightly transparent, although not big enough. And you can open this in a new tab and have a look at it. And this they added a few more animated features, like a folder is empty like that, and you can also, let's see, right click and okay, not much differences. Okay, and as far as the server part is, Ubuntu server part is concerned, they just made a few corrections, few improvements to a few software, and that is all about it. And one of the known issues they mentioned over here in Ubuntu 17.04 is that sometimes the Qt based application, they might render a little less, and there is a little bit of a partition problem over here if you're working with low level virtual machines. Other than that, I don't think there isn't any much problem for now. For now, since this is just released just now, there might be some other problem which may come across. Okay, and I forgot the other official flavors. Let me zoom this up. The other official flavors of Ubuntu that you can try are actually Kubuntu or Kubuntu, which uses KDE on desktop, and there is this Lubuntu or Lubuntu, which uses LXTE or LXQt desktop, which I haven't tried this before. So LXTE desktop, I guess, which is actually pretty light. Ubuntu Budgie, which is the Budgie desktop. Ubuntu GNOME, which is the GNOME desktop, which how do I put it? In the next release, Ubuntu GNOME, which will be the default. This Ubuntu GNOME will be the default Ubuntu, and then this is Ubuntu Chillin. It's not Kylin, it's Chillin, I guess. I just heard that it's actually Chillin. This is actually a Chinese counterpart for Ubuntu release, and there's Ubuntu Mate, not Mate. It's Ubuntu Mate, and there's Ubuntu Studio, and there is Xubuntu, which uses XFCE desktop. So these are the other official flavors. Other than that, what are the other differences? You look at it, not much actually. If I just look at all the software that have been installed over here, the application that have been installed over here, let's have a look. If you look at all the software that have been installed, that is fairly straightforward, nothing much different. I have a additional browser. There's an Ubuntu based browser. Although this I don't know how good this browser works. This is actually Ubuntu, a web browser made from Ubuntu, customly made for Ubuntu. I'm not sure how good this will work. My internet is a bit fluctuating as of now, so I doubt whether this will go unconnected. But nevertheless, this is there. And other than that, you have a default web browser, which is actually Firefox. And I guess this won't work either because my internet is not working. Other than that, let's see. Yeah, you have almost the basic software that you have all the time. Nothing much different. As far as the theming wise is concerned, the icon theming wise is concerned, this is Unity 7 is slightly a bit off, because if you look at it, these icons over here for software updated, rhythm box, online accounts and passwords and all, if you look at these icons, these are pretty much nicely styled, whereas the icons for scope, reboot, shutdown, system settings and all, they are a bit messed up. They are a bit slightly messed up. And if you look at the system settings, this is actually how the system settings looks like thanks to the inclusion of Unity 8. And now the system settings, if you closely look at it, this looks more like how a system settings will look like for an iPad or a tablet or a Android smartphone. The one good thing, although this looks reminiscent of a smartphone, the categorization is pretty clear. This is very much this is a little bit user friendly, no question on that. And you can all the applications that we saw over there in the different software that we keep, all of them are like put in a better manner, and you can actually go and customize this up. So this is actually, although this looks like a phone, removing that judgment of that it looks kind of like a phone a smartphone interface, I have to admit this is pretty neat. Okay, nicely organized, and it's pretty different. And it looks very obvious because it's pretty neat and polished, considering the fact that Ubuntu and Canonical, they just invested so much money, and the development was heavily on Unity 8 for the past few years. And other than that, now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to look at the calendar. Now if I just open this calendar up, okay, it seems in the newer version the calendar has what you call as the view mode. So I don't know why the calendar is not showing up. Anyway, I'll open this up. Yeah, you have this week mode which is included these days, in the latest version. Earlier you just had a month view and a year view. You also have a week view these days, and I think you can have a everyday view. This is actually good. Although not, maybe this may be good for people who wants to make a lot of appointments and synchronizing. I guess they released this under the consideration that for the convergence project Ubuntu was talking about, wherein have an operating system, have an Ubuntu like operating system, a version of Ubuntu for a smartphone or a tablet, and then you can synchronize everything using the cloud feature, just like how you have for Windows phones and Windows systems, or like Mac, iPad, iPhone, and MacBooks synchronized through cloud. Okay, I think that's one of the reasons why they're trying to keep this up. And since Ubuntu Unity is like dropping out of the contest, not sure how things would be. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to log out. I'm going to log this out, and I'm just going to give you a sneak peek of how Unity 8 looks like. So all this time we were looking at Ubuntu with Unity 7 desktop, and now if I log in, what I have is that I have feature to shift between Unity 7 or Unity 8 desktop. So just have a look at Unity 8. Although in fairness, I just have to mention that there are some technical problems with Unity 8. Okay, one of the first problems I noticed over here is that the cursor gets a bit of off. I just have to push a little bit to make sure everything works fine. And there we go. And this is how it is. It's pretty clean. And here in this option over here, I have all my software nicely organized, and there is a bit of problem with the icons in Libreoffice, but nevertheless this came out well. And this is actually has organized all the icons in all the software pretty well. I give points for that. And unlike Unity 7, the iconic theme over here, okay, it's pretty consistent. So shape-wise is pretty consistent. The artistically is consistent. Although this is actually a minor detail to note. And I open my system settings over here. I just get a basic settings, but if I just push this up and expand it, I get the full-fledged system settings. And again, as I mentioned, it looks just like a phone, smartphone. And then the one problem I notice is, before I talk about the problem, I also want to talk about the this sidebar option, wherein you have the option to look for set the sound settings. You have the option to set the sound settings over here. I'll automatically open my settings. Anyway, if I click this up, I have an option to look at my date and calendar in the sidebar feature, and I have an option to log out, suspend, and enable, disable desktop mode. Okay, have the sound feature, a battery option as well. And all of this, I just have to go to this top right corner and click them up. It'll automatically pop up, and then I can just jump between files, Bluetooth, network and all, and I can have this bar featuring up over here, and I can close this up. This is actually a slight nice feature, but this is actually more like how Windows 8 looked like, little bit like how Windows 8 looked like. Okay, you can also have the charge level and brightness settings over here that you can go and tweak this up. And now here comes the annoying part which I noticed. If I just open my system monitor, this is the annoyance part. I'm just going to close this very soon. Just notice that my CPU RAM just spiked up. My CPU and my RAM spiked up. The moment I opened up system monitor, my RAM initially it was like 40% or something, and then it gradually shooted up to full 100%, and my CPU was around 50% just to render my playing desktop. And there is no, I don't know, the right click option is not working. I don't know. If I just open up my terminal, and thing is, if I open up my terminal, will it directly allow? Look at this. If it'll ask me for my password, kind of like how a font setting looked like. And this terminal, our coloring is okay. I admit this looks a little cool. And if I look, same features, they're okay. And if I look at free, it says the RAM usage is this much, 797, but you can still see that there's a considerable amount of lag. And if I use top, and it says that my CPU is under 67.5% under use. Now it's shifted to 28%, but nevertheless it's actually fluctuating up and down quite considerably. Now that is something I didn't. I was like a little surprised. I thought this was actually a problem with VirtualBox. If you have this installed in your operating system, I mean in actual hardware, and if you see and if you notice a similar issue, just want to give this is a heads up. So if you were to try Unity 8 in your operating system, you might get a similar problem over here. So I'm just going to give you just a warning. Okay. Nevertheless, if you want to have a stable, you want to use this distribution in a reasonably stable manner, Unity 7 is there. You can work with that. And it's a bit sad that both of these desktops are being defended. Unless otherwise, now the community, Linux community, they have to adopt these two and start making updates and corrections and improvements to this. Although I have a bit of a difference of opinion with Unity desktops, I really wish they don't. I never thought that they'll be just taken out just like that. I feel a little bad for that. Well, nevertheless, we just have to keep moving on. Ubuntu, this is actually the new phase of how Ubuntu looks like. Apparently, the last phase of how Ubuntu looks like with the Unity desktops. And from the next version onwards, they will have a GNOME desktop in it. So, if my understanding is right, this will be the last distribution to have Unity 7 and Unity 8 desktop in it. Unless otherwise, somebody in the community takes it up and makes a considerable improvement to it. Now, with that being said, I am just going to log out of this session. I'm going to log out of this. Is the how do I put it? I'm just going to log out of this desktop layout, shifting back to Unity 7, and that's about it. That's all I have for you guys in this video. This is actually a reasonably good tour and exhaustive explanation of what are the changes and what are the improvements and what are the things that are available in Ubuntu 17.04. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time.